Hey guys, it's Adam here. Welcome to another P3D video, and today we're going to start the process of taking P3D version 3 and sort of turning it into version 5. I don't really know how I'm going to tackle this, but first things first is setting up the menu. So we're at default settings, just like we were at the last video. So we're going to go into the settings menu and we're going to change everything basically. So I'm going to turn that off, I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to turn that to trilinear. We're going to use 2K textures. I've got a 4K monitor, but the height of it is like 2K equivalent. So 4K, I don't really see. It's just increasing VRAM. I don't really see that it's going to mean more, anti-aliasing. So we're going to set the frame rate to 60. Turn that off. Keep that off, and that is it. Scenery. I'm going to basically max out the textures, and the mesh will be at 5. Tessellation factor will be at 1 above high, and that will be 1 above high. That'll be up, and we'll turn on reflections for these, and they'll be maxed out. And these will be, so I have these set to dense, so we'll put 1 above dense, and that will be set to extremely dense. So this is kind of comparatively what my version 5 setup is like. Brightness, we're going to turn that down to 70. Bloom up to 2. Put that to 1 so it's balanced. Landing lights illuminate ground. Dynamic reflections will be set to high. The shadows will be on everything except for non-flagged content. Draw distance, shadow quality, we'll leave it medium, see what that's like. Enable terrain to receive shadows, yes. Terrain shadow cast distance. So adjust terrain shadow, the casted distance increasing it may reduce performance. So total shadow distance is the larger of terrain and object cast distances. So 10,000 meters, 20,000 meters, it can go up to 80,000. So we'll set the terrain shadow to 10 and the cloud shadow to 20, and we'll see what that's like. That might need to go up further. Weather wise, it's medium. Disable turbulent, nope. Draw distance 80, that's fine. Detailed, that's fine. Traffic, we're going to have 50%. All that's set off. We're going to turn all this off, and road vehicles will be set to 30. Ships and ferries set to 11, and that's that. Take that off. Take that off. I'm going to set to PNG for high quality. Take off the air traffic control. And so we don't want top right corner, we don't want slew, stall, overspeed, all that. We do want, we'll leave those. Sound, I want to make sure I choose the actual sound device. And we're going to have the engine set to 75. Cockpit is set to 90. Environment is going to be the highest. And voice down to 5. We're going to take that off. Flight path, so that's we don't need that. Failures, we don't need that. I've done the controls, so I've imported my previous ones. Realism, we're going to take off stress. We're going to take off the ignoring the weights. we're going to allow collisions with our aircraft, aircraft stress, and ignore. We're going to take off, that's fine. True airspeed. Time and season is going to be set to now as of recording this video, and the weather is always going to be building storms, so there we go. And it pretty much quickly loads back up the new things. I might need a restart for some of these, so we'll see how we go. So we're getting like, so I got a target of 60, but we're getting like 45 frames. So as you can see, we got more trees. Like the lights are pretty much, you know, quite different here. But yeah, the trees are the major thing here. We're still getting 30 FPS, that's the important thing. We don't have to worry about VRAM. This is a DirectX 11. So I did work out this is a DirectX 11 engine. So let's get in the flight deck. We just test the S. Yep, so we can do that. So that's all good. Flaps down, trim up, and let's go. So P3D version 3, the massive update, and they say that it brings all new features to the platform, rendering and performance, Sim Director and the SDK. It says the platform has been overhauled to take advantage of the latest development tools to increase performance and stability while streamlining future development. Optimizations and visual improvements to the rendering engine increase immersion to a whole new level. Let's take her to the skies. Set the QNH. We're in the air. Oh, this thing doesn't really get in the air that well, so gear up. And flaps up. New development features, including the Scaleform SDK, provide developers even more flexibility to create new and exciting content for P3D's ever-increasing user base. A completely new way to interact with the platform has been added with the addition of the avatar mode. Opens up endless new training possibilities, including vehicle inspection, maintenance, safety scenarios. P3D's scenario creation tool, Sim Director, has been enhanced with a new scripting system, opening up possibilities to create more complex training scenarios. Why is my door open? That's a rip. Shut that door. No? Can we not shut the door? There's no click spot for the door. That's a bird. Like, what is that all about? Put my flaps up and my door open. I don't know why the door's open and I can't shut it. So let me try. Oh, hang on, was it when I put my gear? Ah, so there's a keybind here. Door is open. Is set to a button the same as the gear. So I'll change that for the next video. So now looking at the textures, like as you can see, there's more buildings. Like frames are steady, you know. We're locked in at 60, so it'll never go above that. But as you can see, just increasing the things means everything's loading in, and this is comparable settings to version 5. So let's have a look at what the GPU is actually doing. So the GPU now, or the CPU and the GPU, as you can see, the CPU has increased. It's doubled its efforts. Literally, by increasing sliders, we got double the amount of CPU being used. And the same with the GPU, it's now doubled as well. There's still a lot more. My hardware is only half being used. So there's still a lot more room to increase the graphical detail and everything else. And like this is default, so we haven't actually installed any Orbex. We haven't replaced any textures. There's been no add-ons for planes or anything like that. So, I mean, you know, it's still pretty okay. This is an improvement over default, and literally all I've done is change some sliders, and that is it. So, interesting. Like, just literally increased a little bit of detail. So what we want to try and do now is obviously maximize the fidelity of the visuals. I mean, everything does look okay, you know. It's still not up to the level of, you know, I would say high quality, but, you know, it's still not much has changed in terms of like things we've actually turned off, like the anti-aliasing in the sim. Like that has helped, I think, and let the GPU handle that. You know, it's obviously the draw distance, as you can see, could actually go further out. Like a lot further out. But, you know, we're going to start putting add-ons in, so at the end of the day, I don't really want to be increasing things too much because we need to have allowance for add-ons. And once all the add-ons are in, then we can tweak the settings again, you know. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to close the sim down and we're going to go into the CFG file and we're going to add a few additions to it based off my version 5. Okay, so let's shut her down. So as you can see in the P3D version 5 one, there's a lot more settings, like things here that there are not in here. Most of these are probably from add-ons, you know. So P3D CFG is there, and then the version 3 one is here. So there are some settings that I know. So I'm going to see what happens when we put this in. I don't know if that's actually going to work, but we're going to give it a go. So we saw that the CPU was being nailed mainly on the first one. This should change it to where it's actually going to be spread out over the whole lot of them. Other ones here, I'm going to change the max spot point lights to 900 from, if it is in here. So the thing is, there's a lot of things in here that are not going to be in here. Or in a different order, so I don't actually see that in here. So this is one we're going to be adding, and if it's one that we're actually adding, because I don't see max spotlight here anywhere. If it's one that we're going to be adding, it's always going to be added to the bottom so we can keep up with what we're adding. So let's have a look at these values now between the two sims. So we've got RS minimal object pixel radius set to 2. So that's not even in the graphics section. So let me just double check that it's not actually anywhere else, because it might be somewhere else, you know. Definitely not. Nope. Okay. So let's see here. Now again, adding all these values like might actually either crash out or it might not even start. So let's see. Kind of want the actual, like, all of these here. I kind of want them in as well, but I don't think they're going to react the same. Let's just put them in for kicks and see what happens. Now these do exist in here, so we've got HDR brightness, HDR bloom threshold, bloom magnitude. Now at the end of the day, I want to preserve these settings as well, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a backup of this CFG file. So we're going to copy this and place it outside of this folder. Then we can back up things if we need to. So I'm going to take out the HDR brightness, the bloom threshold, the bloom magnitude, sigma, There's a tone map day and night exposure key, which doesn't exist here, so we'll leave that in. We also need to take off the HDR saturation, and I think that is it. So at the end of the day, tone map day exposure key, tone map night exposure key, and the max exposure or this and that, they're all different. So you've got to be careful, because at the end of the day, you know, literally the shaders are different. Like, in fact, changing the bloom threshold and bloom magnitude might not actually be beneficial. But let's see what happens, shall we? So 10.5 and 2.0. So I'll just change this actually by hand. 10.5 and 2.0. And then we've got an exposure speed up and speed down. So let's pop that in. We've got the bloom blur sigma, which is here 0.8, and it's 0.8. Bloom blend scale 0.65. Scale is not in here, so that will come in. At the end of the day, these should be basically the same, like reaction, but the shaders are different. So now the day, this is here, is these four values is basically, I think, these two values. So if we change these, like, I think we should leave these in, because these are for the skies, like, whereas that's, I think, going to change things too drastically. This one, an exposure rate. Exposure rate isn't in here. So exposure rate and that one will be added. Okay. So next ones are let's see. I don't need to put landing legacy light, because that is actually, you know, like, that is already in the sim by default kind of thing. Display texture max load, we'll put that in. So we want display texture max load, not here. Streaming, all that. So we've got texture bandwidth multi, which is kind of set to our frame rate. But multi, they've set it to 30. We set it to 40. Scenery max. So here we go. This is where it gets here. So basically nothing. So auto gen draw distance is not here. So basically all they've got is the tree minimum and maximum here. So we're going to put these, we're going to leave these values alone, actually, because the sliders are set for something else. So scenery draw distance, we'll leave that as well, actually. I will put that in though, in the scenery section. And right, so info text here. So basically, where is it? Frame rate, locked frame rate. This one, okay. So these two values here. In fact, let's just take the one from here. Info text 1. Because I basically don't want to, I don't need to know all this other stuff, so I just want the one. So basically take that out and swap it in there. Display user interface, terrain, so terrain 4.5, Terrain, they got 5.5. Wow, that's interesting. There's not a lot of here. We're gonna put that set to true, and now these three values here, and sorry, these ones here. Okay, so this is gonna batch in more trees per cell and have better texturings and have a reduced polygon count, so basically massive performance improvements and more visuals. I think that's it basically. So let's save that and start up the sim and head in. So this will be interesting. So seems a bit darker. Frames is pretty much the same. Hasn't actually improved the frame rate as such. Let's see if it's changed any settings in here. So I don't see anything changed here, in all honesty. So, but in terms of visuals, I mean, it does have a little bit of a darker feel. You know, the lighting does seem a bit, you know. I don't really see a visual change here. Let's have a look at the performance of this, that. So actually it's reduced the GPU workload by 20% and the CPU by 20% as well. So let's get in the flight deck, set our flaps. We need to change the door opening animation, and there we go. Alright, let's go. Oop. So inside the flight deck, like, yeah, it does look a little bit darker. So those lighting settings, I don't know if it's actually made any bit of difference, but it definitely has had an effect. Your biggest difference you'll probably see is obviously the frame rate's holding at 40 pretty much, because that's what I've set it in the GPU at. Right, gear up. Oh, okay, gear up don't work on the keybind. We'll have to change that. Flaps up. I don't really... What we'll do is we'll see a difference when we get a bit higher. QNH reset. In fact, let me change that to... Actually, no, I'll just use the in-house gear. It's fine. So, yeah, like... Maybe with the trees, you'll probably see more of a difference where you go to areas where, you know... But actually, I can see off to the horizon, the trees actually expand further out than they did before. But in terms of, like, make a difference, like, I don't know. I think I can see the same amount of trees, but I'm not really sure. Now, you're probably not going to notice the major difference now in the changes in the CFG that I've made, because there's no real add-ons. So it's when the add-ons start coming in is when you'll start seeing things, I think, change. Now in the next video, I'm going to replace basically the default texturings. I'm going to add in my global terrain pack, which will like basically change the textures, the trees, the roads, the rocks. It'll add new classifications in for, you know, what textures mean that they need to be. I'm also going to change like the runway lights. In fact, is there a time preview in here? I want to see what the nighttime looks like. Oh, time preview. There we go. I'm used to it being on the top. So let's see what it looks like at night. So that's quite important as well. There we go. So yeah, looks all right. Sky looks a bit bluey to me, but the varying degrees of, and you know, clouds could be a bit, I would say, darker maybe, but yeah, it looks all right at night. Obviously the road lighting is completely wank. That needs to change, you know. But it's basically performance. Like, now that we're in the air, yeah, so basically the CPU and GPU, the changes I've made have lowered the usage for the hardware. But I know for a fact that more trees are being like allowed to batch in, but I don't know if I see that visually here because it's a very limited, smaller area. But off to the horizon, I do see things that I don't think I saw before, but I don't know, like these buildings over here, way over here, did not come in before. So there we go. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I do see I see more of a difference in the texturing, like the lights basically, than anything else. But it kind of, you know, kind of looks the same in terms of visuals, and I know the performance has been increased. So anyway, in the next video, I'm going to add in my global terrain pack, the water pack, and I don't think I can add the sky pack because that is changing things back to this state more so than updating version 5. So it's designed to revert version 5 back to things that were taken out and enhance it, you know, with the shaders. So if the shaders are there, then I'll add them, but I don't think it'll actually make a difference. So in the next video you will see a difference between the two. So just kind of remember what the landscape looks like, because in the next video a simple texture replacement will make it look like something else. And I'll see you in the next video.